We learned this week that Europe had retreated from the brink of war on a couple of fronts.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Interesting.
Tell me more.
Let's see where this goes.
We learned first of all that it was all threatening to kick off between Spain and Portugal. We learned that, for reasons unclear as of this broadcast, possibly he had just returned from an especially satisfactory lunch, Portugal's Defence Minister Nuno Melo had decided to reassert Portugal's historic claim to the Spanish town of Olivenza, in words that will now be declaimed with appropriate wounded pride by Monocle's abstruse Portuguese grievances desk chief Carlota Rebelo.
Olivenza is Portuguese, naturally. By treaty, Olivenza should be handed over to the Portuguese state. It is not a question of yesterday, but today.
We learned, when we looked into it, that there is a whole thing about the 1297 Treaty of Alcanesis and another whole thing about the 1801 War of the Oranges, which we're pretty sure wasn't actually fought with oranges. There again, Spain does have that festival where they throw tomatoes at each other, so who knows. And then there's something else to do with the Treaty of Badajoz, also of 1801, and some other bloody thing involving the 1815 Treaty of Vienna. We, for one whimsical news monologue, and for what it may be worth, characterise our own attitude as somewhere between bemusement and indifference, which we learned was also pretty much the view from Madrid, which, as of this broadcast, has not deigned to respond to Mr. Melo's demand, almost as if they think it's a pile of rubbish. We have learned from Spain, however, of a potentially exciting new means of resolving conflict between nations, that of deciding that one simply cannot be bothered with whatever the other mob think they're on about and going about one's day. We also learned that this line does, in fairness, seem to be the one taken by Portugal's Prime Minister, and we learned this from a clarification issued by Melo shortly after what we suspect to have been a very brief, quite loud, and altogether one-way phone call from the boss.
These remarks do not reflect the official stance of Portugal's government led by Luís Montenegro.
Which translates approximately as,
I enjoy being Minister of Defence and have no great wish to be appointed ambassador to Guinea-Bissau.
But we learned that this was not the only front line along which bayonets were being fixed. We learned that in the Balkans, tempers were fraying over obscure questions of language, history and symbolism, which is probably fine because tempers fraying over obscure questions of language, history and symbolism in the Balkans hardly ever leads to anything bad. We learned that at a meeting hosted by Bulgarian President Rumen Radev with his North Macedonian counterpart Gordana Silyanovska-Davkova, the flags of Bulgaria and the European Union were on the table, but the flag of North Macedonia was not. Indeed. And we learned that North Macedonia, for one landlocked republic known, it says here, for its tobacco exports, was not about to countenance any frantic flannel to the effect that it wasn't really a formal state visit, she'd only come to Sofia to go to the opera, or that it's not easy to scare up a North Macedonian flag in Sofia at short notice, and instead had taken extreme exception. The dudgeon of North Macedonia's Prime Minister, Hristijan Mikoski, herewith rendered by Monocle's abstruse Balkan grievances desk chief Laura Kramer.
In the past, when Macedonian dignity was humiliated and sold, then they kept silent, turned their backs, and were seduced by those who humiliated and trampled on us. When a red line is crossed, a response must be given. If you don't react, the exception will become the practice.
We further learned that North Macedonia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Nikoloski had also steamed in, harumphing that Bulgaria had been rude and uncivilized and miserable. All of which Bulgaria characterized as unacceptable. We have not learned as of this recording that orders for a general mobilisation have been issued on either side of the border, but look forward to next week's developments in Bulgaro-North Macedonian tensions. If someone could play someone else's anthem at the wrong speed at a tractor race or something, it will save us a great deal of work. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Muller.